With their first fourth-round selection in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks selected Anthony Bradford, a right guard out of LSU. And this pick had me just a little bit confused at first. Not that I didn't like it, just that it had me a little bit confused. The Seattle Seahawks have been transitioning over the last couple of years to a new style of offensive lineman, away from the old that Coach Carroll had been kind of enamored with, almost close to obsessed with, which were the bigger, larger, mountainous style of offensive linemen that could push anybody off the line of scrimmage. Well, with offensive coordinator Shane Waldron coming aboard, he also is bringing with him more of a purified West Coast offense, one that calls for more athletic, more nimble offensive linemen. And when you watch Anthony Bradford's tape initially, what stood out to me was that, yes, he was big and long, but he was also kind of slow and lumbering on his tape all across the board. And he looked most especially uncomfortable being asked to do those very things that we were going to ask him to do in this offense, especially from a run blocking standpoint of things, getting to the second level, pulling out in space, pulling back across the formation. He just looked very uncomfortable in doing so, and initially led me to believe that it would be better in maybe a different type of scheme. But then, of course, we get to the post-evaluation process of the draft after the selections and look a little bit deeper at these guys. And you actually come to find that he was a 98th percentile athletic tester for the position, an elite tester for the position. So he's got the raw goods to get it done. It just doesn't quite show up on tape where the raw goods meet the tape. So you think, okay, the light bulb starts to come on. I got the goods. I'm going to come to my offensive line coach, Dickerson, and say, hey, I'm giving you the 98th percentile athlete. It's on you now as a coach to teach that up, to refine him, to get him technically better, to get him moving in space under more control, and how to do that, which I think Dickerson's going to be able to do. And I think as from Dickerson's standpoint, if you got to give me a choice between getting the guy with the raw athletic goods or getting the overachiever type with the short arms, who's not very strong, who's just real cerebral and tries hard, well, give me the guy with the raw goods who can get it done, and I'll fix the problems on tape. And let's make no mistake about it, there are some really nice things that Anthony Bradford brings to bear. He is big. He is legitimately long, 33.5-inch long arms. And he put up 33 reps on the bench at the combine, which is pretty legitimate for guys with the guy with that long of arms. Those guys got like 31.5-inch arms, they just got to push it up like this. But when you got those real long arms, those long levers, it's hard to get that weight all the way up because you got to clear a little bit more distance. And that power shows up on tape. Off of the initial snap, he always has almost an initial win with his jostle, with his punch that he gets on the defensive lineman, where you see him kind of set them back a step or two off of that initial punch. Now, the linemen get real slippery real quick. He does struggle to sustain those blocks and keep it locked in, but he does get that quick initial win off the snap, which does show up snap after snap after snap, especially in the run game, especially when he's going mano-a-mano with a guy right across from him. There is some other little negative aspects here where in pass protection, it is a struggle. It is an absolute work in progress. He has really got his problems, his fits with those guys that are going to be twitchy and bendy and really quick. He has a lot of problems with those type of guys of just getting to the spot and being able to meet them. And a lot of times just wholly whiffing on blocks because he can't get to that spot. Again, you can see a little bit of why my initial look at him in the film was, okay, he doesn't move well in the run game, and then he's struggling to move in pass protection in addition to this, and we're looking for hyper-athletic offensive linemen. But again, we go back to those raw athletic testing scores, and we say, okay, look, the goods are there for him to be able to move in pass protection. You just got to clean him up from a refinement standpoint. He's not started a lot of games at LSU here, so it's a little over a season of started games there. So it's understandable why maybe some of the raw edges of his game do show up as often as they do. But the pass protection is not to be undersold. He was a 70 run blocker, really good in that element with LSU, but he was a 50 graded guy by PFF as a pass blocker. So there's going to be a lot to clean up with that. But you do, again, got the raw goods to go and get that done. Another thing to make you feel maybe a little encouraged by this pick, and a part that stood out to me that was probably something the coaches were thinking about with the back of their eye at this selection, was when I made my evaluation of Bradford, I thought, okay, I'll go to a gap power kind of team. Not a team that's necessarily going to be zone-based and ask them to move in space, but a team that is just essentially mano-a-mano, go after the guy right in front of you and move him off of the ball. Well, the Seattle Seahawks last year, and a lot of the success that they had with Kenneth Walker in the ground game, was utilizing gap power elements. A lot of his biggest runs came off of those gap power elements. So in a zone with a running back, you'll tend to have a running back with a hole that they got to go to, but they got to be like water after the snap. And they might need to drift to a different hole if that other hole ain't there. You got to keep your eyes up. You got to read the play, read your blocks. With a gap power scheme, you're just going. You know where you've got to go. You know the hole you've got to hit. You hit it full speed, and if it's blocked up right, you might just be gone, as we saw Kenneth Walker often be gone on some big-time runs last year. This guy's going to be a pure fit to do the things that Kenneth Walker really takes advantage of best as a running back. So some little just smaller extra element there maybe to get you excited about the pick. I warmed up to this one. I still give it a good B pick because there's a long way to go with him as far as a player to get him to where I think he's going to be a good player, and he may not eventually get there. But you do love the raw goods that you got to work with this guy, and I do expect him to be right there with Phil Haynes step for step, possibly starting to begin the year. There are some people that are making a little bit of the comp between Phil Haynes and him as a player. They may physically be very similar to each other, but these are very two different style of players. Haynes came out of Wake Forest as a left guard who was a really good pass protector, who wasn't necessarily the best kind of run blocker. This guy's coming out as a pure right guard who's a really good run blocker, but maybe not the best as a pass protector. Either way, you've got two legitimate guys in there to fight it out now, and the offensive line should, especially at the right guard position, to be much better. I also feel like some of the twitchier guys that he had to deal with on the college level, he's not going to be dealing with as much on the pro level, because more often than not, he's going to get those big one-tech, zero-tech type guys across from him, which are going to be just trying to utilize their power to take advantage of him, and he can handle that stuff perfectly fine. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.